Good evening, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to the program Expressions. I'm your host, Robert Hall. Here I am in Providenciales on this Monday night, a shift from the nation's capital, Grand Turk. So you guys under the tree, I'm not checking for you tonight. I'm checking for my boys at Kishko, down in Blue Hills, up by Brother Will in the Bight, and over there in Five Keys. That's the way I'm rolling tonight. I want to welcome all of you to Expressions, wherever you are in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and members of the diaspora wherever you are. Conscious of the fact that I spend just about all of my time in Grand Turk, so most of the focus is indeed there. I'm absolutely delighted that management agrees for me to spend a little time here so that I could focus a bit on Providenciales. And tonight will be no exception. So when the phone lines are open, everybody can call in. But I want the whole Providenciales. Call till I'm getting tired of receiving calls. That's what I want tonight. I am going to give you a report on the court proceedings today. I will speak a bit about the elections in the Bahamas, the aftermath of it. I will speak about several issues affecting the Turks and Caicos Islands and Providenciales in particular, and that the time is right now for action and less talk. Many talk the talk, but it's time they walk the walk. I'm going to have a few things to say about our police force and some of the nonsense that some people are circulating. You got to get real. I am real, and I will tell it like it is. Those of you who don't like it, it's like tough luck. But it's time we have a reality check. So with that, let me welcome you here in Providenciales, all of you in Blue Hills area, the Five Keys and the Bight and all the surrounding areas. I like to stick with the three original settlements because there's so many others that have been sprung up that I am bound to leave out some, and I don't want anyone to feel left out. This is an inclusive show, one for everybody. So starting here in Providenciales, how are you doing? Let me hope real fine. It should be. And a few of you who may be on West Caicos and Ambergris Keys, good evening and welcome. And as I go up the island chain, over there on Pine Key, it's been some time since I have been there. I haven't heard much from you, the workers there, in recent time. I hope that management is treating you well and that you are indeed well paid. Good evening and welcome to all those on Parrot Key. The same thing I said about Pine Key is relevant to you. High-end property indeed. Let me hope you're getting high-end pay for your services. Good evening and welcome North Caicos. Ah, boy, I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to hop out over there because I really would like to check out the farms to see how you all are doing. You know, I'd love to see that indeed. A good evening, Middle Caicos. Well, you are few and not very much happening there, but I certainly want to see what progress is being made out there on Bambara Beach. You know that is close to my heart. and not just because my family has property there, but also the fact that MC Expo was started by me, and the first set of huts that were built there, it was my design. If life lasts, I would want to do just one more expo before I take my final flight. What do you think about that? My final flight where? I guess some of you might be saying. We are all placed here only but for a season. And you know, we have to be ready. And whether we're ready or not, when that great call comes, we got to go. In that vein, I want to express my deepest sympathies to all those who have lost loved ones. The most recent that I've learned of is Mrs. Gartha Butterfield in Grand Turk, a lady whom I knew very, very well, and so to her entire family. I would like to express sincere sympathies. I do so on behalf of my own family and my sister Wealthy, and the management and staff of Radio Turks and Caicos. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh. It may be painful, but blessed be the name of the Lord. I want to welcome all of you over there in South Caicos. According to Niles, things there are going fairly well, and it should be. I have been urging you all over 2 years ago to get ready to embrace the opportunities that were coming. But I know some of you, just like the folks in Grand Turk, whom I'm urging to begin to prepare. I know the feeling is, I'll wait till I see it. But sometimes you wait till you see it, others have the vision and got going before you, and then you're behind the 8 ball. So to my brother Branford and his wife, and Toinier and all the rest over there, Gagamal and his family, good evening and welcome to Expressions. To all of you in Grand Turk, welcome. And over in Salt Key, always a special welcome for you. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we thank you for this day which is but to a close. We thank you for the lives of all of those who have labored in this vineyard, many of whom you have called home to glory. We pray at this time that you would comfort the family of all those bereaved, and at this moment we lift up the family of the late Mrs. Gartha Butterfield there in Grand Turk. For others of our loved ones who are in hospices or in hospitals receiving medical care, we pray, dear Father, that you in your will do what is best for them. We pray for all those who are in home health care and all those who are the caregivers, whether the wellness center, center of hope, whatever. Bless and guide them, for we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Now, I told you that I will bring you a report on the court proceedings today. But before I do that, I have been following up the developments that led up to this court from the time of the Commission of Inquiry straight through. Yes, indeed, that Commission of Inquiry, the Robin Auld Commission, focused primarily on members of the then government. Mind you, their terms of reference was to inquire over a much broader area, but they chose not to focus on other areas, but instead on the then government. There is no doubt in my mind that had there been focus much wider, there are other individuals, even not in government, that would have been implicated. But that's all water under the bridge. I suppose we have to focus on the moment. And so I attended a number of the initial meetings that SIP held, asked various questions and the like. Didn't always get the answers I wanted, but nevertheless I asked. I sat in court during many of the hearings, sometimes just myself and one or two other persons in the audience, in contrast to when the trial started. I am of the view that many individuals did not take the trial as seriously as they ought to. Fast forward to where we are today. After about 20 years in total from the commission of inquiry leading up to trials, postponements and death of the judge and all the rest of it, here we are now to the sentencing phase. You do know that there were some individuals, to use a local expression, cut a deal with prosecution, and their matters were sorted out long ago. In the case of the Honorable Floyd Hall and Honorable Clayton Green, theirs was settled sometime last year, and I need not remind you of that. You should know. I have said on many occasions, and I repeat now, the appearance this whole process gives me, or gave me, is like one system for whites and one for black, one for foreign and one for local. And cause it what it may, I will not change my view as far as that is concerned. So here we are today, and I was there this morning at the beginning of the sentencing hearing for former Premier Honorable Michael Eugene Mizik, former Minister McAllister Piper Hanschel, and Chalmers Mizik, attorney at law. I scribbled a brief report, and in this case I will read it. Dressed in my African attire, with the spirit of the ancestors with me, I entered the courtroom, Leeward Highway, Providenciales, at 10:30 to ensure finding a seat. Upon entering a room that I thought would be jam-packed, instead, it was half empty or half full, depending on how one looks at it. A slim, trim, former Premier Michael Mizik arrived wearing dark suit and greeted everyone. His brother, Chalmers Mizik, with his long braids or locks, whichever one you want to call it, was similarly attired. The Honorable McAllister Hanschel, looking a bit overweight, strolled in wearing a tan jacket and dark pants. For me, it was mixed feeling to see the health facility, which I worked hard for as minister, being used as a courthouse. For one of the longest trials in history, affecting the health of those on trial as well as the health of the Treasury. By 11 o'clock, there was standing room only. One could sense the tension in the room as those convicted and those in the visitors section awaited the start of the court, with Justice Nareen presiding. At 11:27, Justice Nareen entered wearing his red robe with white collar. Several procedural matters were sorted out, with argument and counter-argument put forward by prosecutor and defense attorneys. Sitting in the visitors section were current and past ministers and leaders, Honorable Arlington Musgrove, former Premier Galmore Williams, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Jamaica Williams, former Minister, Honorable Arabella Smith, Delcine Simmons, Chair of the PNP, Mr. Eddie Seymour, and Jeffrey Watson, a longtime friend of Honorable Michael Mizik, among many others. Court adjourned about 1:27 and will resume at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. I spoke with lead prosecutor Andrew Mitchell, who opined that he believed that matters would be concluded sometime between Wednesday and Thursday. Until then, or until such time, Robert Hall for Expressions, reporting from the courthouse at the former Myrtle Rigby Health Facility, Providencialis. We're not quite there as yet, but it is my hope that this long trial will soon be over. It is my hope also that after the prolonged agony that those who are on trial had to endure, and frankly, I know some of the postponement had to do with judges, some with the defense lawyers as well as with the prosecution. So it's not a one-sided affair in that regard. But it has been a long, long time coming. And I do hope that this week will bring some closure to this episode that, except for the history books, we can begin to put this behind us and move on. And the best way of doing that, and I publicly express, it is my hope, it is my prayer, that the justice will impose a non-custodial sentence. You'll recall that the other two ministers, at the end of their appeals, did get suspended sentences. I hope in this case it would not have to go that far, that we all can breathe a sigh of relief, and the hemorrhaging of our treasury will end. Some of you may agree with my view, some may not. Those are my views, and I stand by them. I don't want the whole show to be a monologue, and so if there are any of you with any views, do feel free to call in 946-2007 1-900-2222 007. Or you may message me at 244-7332. 244-7332. Now there are a few persons I want to give a little shout out, so bear with me. But like I said, I certainly want to have your views as we go along. I want to say good evening to my cousins, Leonard and Cheryl Forbes. How are you folks doing? To Mr. D'Amico Dean. To culture man David Bowen and cultural girl Angela Freitas. I can never overlook Moon Giant down there in Wheeling, because I'm sure he has it locked in. Good evening to Jackie. Good morning this morning. I hope I hear your voice later on as we got into some of the providencial issues. Good evening to Jackie Warrican. I haven't seen her in ages except on Facebook. Good evening to the Morley family over there in Five Keys. To my good friend, Rose Higgs. How are you? A shout out to all of the boys who normally hang there by Kishko. And to the crab man. It's rainy now, and this being May, there should be lots of crabs all about the place. And I know a lot of people love that crab and rice. I want to say good evening to all the guys who hang out over there at Brother Will's bar and at the taxi stand. And to businessman and recording artist Charlie Palmer. How are you doing, Charlie? It has been quite some time. Give my regard to your beautiful wife, my cousin. I want to say good evening also to Jack, the entertainer. I love what he seeks to do with the young people. And good evening to all the members of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force. I'm going to talk about you all later on. Now, mind you, I ain't got nothing bad to talk about you all, but I'm going to talk. So you better listen. All right? I saw several of them at the courthouse today. It was a pleasure, despite the circumstances. So again, the number to call is 1-900-2222-007 or 946-2007. You may message me at 244-7332. Let me check my messages to see if there's anyone who have broken the ice before I move on. Well, so far it seems not. Like I said, I hope as we get on to the other matters that it will become a very interactive show, because I don't believe in just a monologue. Okay. Let me just make an announcement or two. You would have heard Mr. Brooks, who does a fine job as a sports reporter, mentioning the Jags Memorial Road Relay in Provo this Saturday, starting at 5. I don't remember. I think he said a.m. or p.m. I'm not sure. Registration is $20. You would have heard the announcement, and what I suggest you do is keep listening. There will be follow-up tomorrow, and you would get it even more accurately. But basically, I'm just encouraging all of you, or as many of you as possible, to go out and participate. And then there is an announcement from the United Taxi Union. Let me see if I could pull that one up and read that to you a bit more accurately. Yes, I have now got it. And good evening to you, Mr. Adrian Williams. And it says, the United Taxi Union is organizing a Jags McCartney celebration in Provo on the 25th of this month. And he says that we'd love if you would promote the event on your show, Expressions, to help get the word out. Your support would mean a lot to us in bringing the community together. All right, so well, the word is out. There is going to be a Jags McCartney celebration in Provo on the 25th of this month. Well, on another show, well, unfortunately there's no show on Wednesday. Otherwise, I was going to say, then you could supply me with further details. Well, if you send it in later on in the show, I would be happy to provide further details. This person, I guess, responding to what I said about the trial, said, "Good evening, Mr. Hall. I do respect your opinion and your views on a non-custodial sentence for those on trial. but can you please share with the public your reasons for holding such a view? Great comment, great question. I always believe, irrespective of the circumstances, justice must be tempered with mercy. I do know that these are serious crimes, but despite my awareness of the gravity of those offenses, bearing in mind the long time it has taken to arrive at this point. It is often said, justice delayed is justice denied. I do not fully subscribe to that. But it must have some bearing at the end of the day, and a significant bearing on sentencing. Additionally, bearing in mind that huge sums would be confiscated. I think it's of the order of 15 million in one case, 12 in another, and 6 in another. It's likely, should I say, because there's to be hearing on confiscation. And then there is the other part, if my memory serves me correct, depending on the sentence, there may be disbarment. Taken all together, I think that is sufficient, and that is why I support, or would support, a non-custodial sentence. Again, the number to call is 1-900-2222-007, 946-2007. And it will be consistent with what was meted out to the former Deputy Premier and the former Speaker. If there is anyone with any other comments on that matter, before I move on, please do so now. I see the same person seem to be typing a response, so I await that before I move on from there. I would like to make a few comments about the Bahamas or the Bahamians elections, and then, of course, deal with some issues as they relate to Turks and Caicos, Providenciales in particular, and talk a bit about our police force and what is it we want with them and from them. Okay? And this person says, shouldn't the sentences be such to deter persons from repeating the same behaviors? I am of the view that what I said, if taken together, that should be sufficient to act as a deterrence. When whatever acts were committed, that was at a period when a great deal that is now in place with the Integrity Commission was not there at all. And I can say from experience, I can recall a Mr. Bean standing by the door with his papers in his hand, passing out the forms for declaration of interest. And most of us, or just about all of us, would just tick off. Nothing to declare, nothing to do, nothing to declare. And within a few minutes, that was over. Not so today. You're called upon to declare almost your cat, your dog, where your wife got, your children got. You gotta be careful you hide where your sweetheart got. Serious matter, but sometimes I gotta laugh. You know what I'm saying? God, if I don't laugh sometime, maybe I'll cry. But, you know, it is like that. Now, before I demitted the political arena, certainly things were tightened, particularly in the period when I served as Speaker. And I recall on one occasion, having filled out my declaration, they sent me a follow-up and asked me why I left out my interests in Provo Water Company. I said, I wish. That was Robert C. Hall, not Robert Stevenson Hall. You get it? Sometimes, I guess, and that is why I tend to use Robert Stevenson Hall a lot, because I have a nephew named Robert Stevenson Hall. So there are lots of us about. But anyway, like I said, the fact is, there is far more accountability today than there was at that time. Again, the numbers to call, 1-900-2222, 007, 946-2007, or you may WhatsApp me at 244-7332. Okay. Well, I suppose we have exhausted that one. I believe if I have an expressions on Friday, I would be able to provide an update, God spares life. By that time, one would hope that matters would have come to a conclusion and the men would know their fate. Now on to the Bahamas for just a brief moment. Following the general elections, which the PLP swept with 33 seats to the FNM 8. Ministers have been sworn in. Senators on both sides have been sworn in. I have made some comments about the elections and the conduct of it and how it differs from what we do here. I need not repeat those. What I find to be very interesting is how politicians tend to manipulate their laws to suit the occasion. There is a provision in the Bahamian Constitution that hinders or prevents individuals with interests in the gaming business from being made ministers of government. Yet, Prime Minister Davis went ahead and appointed 2 such individuals that were sworn in. Now, in the case of Mrs. Bryce, that one is a different matter, because her husband, being the gentleman with interests in the gaming business, he resigned from his position. But one of the other individuals who was made minister, in that case, it seems the government instead will be amending the legislation. It is going to be interested, and certainly it's a legal argument, as to whether that minister, having been sworn in, should really act as minister before that relevant provision of the Gaming Act has been amended. In time, we will see. Like in every case, there will be those who are happy, there will be those who are appointed, who are disappointed. And I know that there are many in the PLP who are disappointed not being made senators. And there are some in the FNM who would have made. But one man I know in the FNM that is happy, and that's Rick Fox. He has been made senator. I note that with 33 seats, Prime Minister Davis has appointed a cabinet of 29. That is inclusive of ministers, parliamentary secretaries, and ministers of state, leaving just 4 for backbenchers. That is the largest ministerial allotment in the history of Bahamian politics. The largest. That means that there are very few individuals on the government side in the House of Assembly, along with the 8 opposition members, to fill the various committees of the House and keep the government in check. That is why it is always desirable to have a larger number on the backbench than is the case at the moment. But I could only wish the Bahamian government and people the best. The challenges are enormous. They live right in the mouth, so to speak, of America. And almost daily, we hear of accusations of corruption, particularly in the armed forces and the police. We hear of Bahamians being extradited, caught on the waters for drug trafficking. I know it's almost impossible to police their 700 islands and keys that they sing about. But for the reputation of the Bahamas, they have to make the greatest effort possible, because like Turks and Caicos, they too thrive on tourism. I wish them well. There are lessons, indeed, that we here in the Turks and Caicos Islands can learn from them. Now let me move on for what I hope will be a discussion on our police force, the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands police force. This I want to be very interactive, and I would be disappointed if I do not get 10 calls and messages expressing your views about how you feel about our police force, what you would like to see from them. Our police force is now nearly 400, and it is comprised of persons of various ethnic backgrounds, various nationalities. In fact, I would say reflective of what the Turks and Caicos Islands is today. I have noticed that there are those who have been spreading propaganda and stirring up mischief, seeking to divide the police force. It is the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands police force. For many of you who beat up on the Jamaicans, they are not the single largest group in the police force. Now you know very well, and let us not pretend, what it was like 2, 3, 4 years ago. Many of us were embarrassed. Some tried to contradict when they read it in the foreign press that we had some of the highest rates of crime, murders in particular, in the world. But on a per capita basis, it was indeed correct. I need not go into what contributed to that. What I can go into convincingly is what contributed greatly to the turnaround. It was the wisdom of our Premier, with the blessings of the Governor, who negotiated with the Jamaican government to have a contingent of policemen to assist us. Now, this is different from other Jamaicans who had joined the force in their own right. I pay tribute to all those who labored and fought the odds before the arrival of that tactical unit from Jamaica. I applaud Deputy Commissioner and Assistant Commissioner Grant, Deputy Commissioner Rodney Adams, and Assistant Commissioner Kenny Grant on their contribution over the years. And everybody knows, at one time, I supported the idea of Deputy Rodney Adams becoming Commissioner of Police in the Turks and Caicos Islands. But I saw where that was going nowhere. And Mr. Fitzroy Bailey was recruited and appointed Deputy Commissioner of Police for a period, and thereafter became our Commissioner of Police. Not the Jamaican Commissioner of Police, as some of you cynics out there would say. He has become our Commissioner of Police. And let me say, I am proud of the stance that he has taken. He has boldly stood up to the governor and all concerned, demanding a change in the way the police force operated. I commend him for that. He didn't have to come here. Some of you talk about the American dollars. American dollars are found elsewhere too, you know. There's no denying our pay is pretty good and must be an incentive. But it's more than that. And I recall Prime Minister Holness saying he had something else for him to do. And even on a visit here, complimented him. And while I'm on that, let me correct what I will call a misunderstanding that some of you out there have. When Prime Minister Holness came to Turks and Caicos a few days ago, it was not an official visit. He came for the opening of the additional wing that Beaches had just completed. Adam Stewart is Jamaican. It is not unusual for when a prime minister visits a country where there are members of the diaspora, and in this case, members of his police force, to have a meeting with them. And indeed, he did, and I watched him as he spoke with many of them, comparing policing here with that in Jamaica. Nothing unusual about that. When presidents of the United States visit foreign countries, sometimes don't they have it on the agenda to visit American troops serving there? Turks and Caicos, you got to get real. Sometimes when our premier visits the United Kingdom or the United States, doesn't he meet with members of the diaspora there? We don't have any police serving as such. But that's it. So stop that nonsense about only meeting with Jamaican police and not Turks and Caicos. He had no business to meet with Turks and Caicos Islands police in general. He was to meet with his Jamaican countrymen. I hope, and in fact, I've answered many individuals who were making comments along that line. If you don't understand certain things, it's always better to ask first before spreading what I regard as nonsense. Now, the broad question I want to ask you, Turks and Caicos Islands, and this is what I want to answer on in fast fashion. I want you to call. Let your voices be heard. A lot of people like write under assumed names and that kind of nonsense. Cowards, I call them. You best believe if Robert Hall writes something, you're going to see Robert Hall there. And obviously, my voice isn't easily mistaken. So when I speak, you know that's this Bambara boy, Robert Hall. Yes. And so I want you to call in just now in rapid fashion. Let's hear what your thoughts on our police force. Are we better off today with them than we were a year or two ago? That is the question. The number to call is 1-900-2222, 007-946-2007. We have gone from being listed as a country with some of the highest murder rate in the world to one of 3 islands in the Caribbean which, until recently, hasn't had a murder for the past 6 months. And we are going beyond that. And that's the way it ought to be. Under this new commissioner, I have seen lots of public engagements. I have seen him on the various talk shows, and he's been on Expressions, and no doubt will be back again sometimes. I have seen him and his men, and I am talking about Jamaican contingent. I'm talking about members of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force. I see them visiting schools. I see them visiting communities. Like I said the other day when I was under the tree with my boys in Grand Turk, I saw the van stop. And because I was nearby, I went out to meet them. And I jokingly said to them, "You have a summons for me?" That's a joke, because I'm almost a saint these days, and they don't give summons to saints. But instead, there was a smiling police officer who said, "Would you like some bun and cheese?" I said, "Absolutely." And I was gifted some bun and cheese and a cool Coca-Cola, which I gulped down almost immediately with the heat that was pouring down. And so the engagement of the police in the communities, I've seen them walk about throughout the islands, including Providenciales. And I've seen them in areas where people talk stupidly about, like Dockyard. Nobody couldn't go there, or police couldn't go there. They go there now. And so indeed, I am thankful for the service that the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force has rendered. And I am thankful that the contingent of police from Jamaica has aided us. Because let's face the reality. We couldn't handle the situation by ourselves. And when the call went out, "Come over to Macedonia and help us," they came. And they are still here. And I hope they have built bridges that will be maintained. So even after they are gone, we can live in relative safety. I want to commend the public, because without their support, Commissioner Bailey and his dedicated men and women would not have been able to turn things around in such a dramatic fashion as they have. Now let me pause. In the same light that many of the negative ones would write, let me hear you who are more positive then to call in. And even if you're negative, you can call. But you know, sometimes in life we suffer because the voices of good are often silent, while the voices of division are heard loudly. The number to call is 1-900-2222-007. 946-2007. Or you may message me at 244-7332. Come on now, let's have a conversation. This, in my view, is a very important matter. The Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force need to know how you feel about them. Do you welcome the achievements that have been made? This is a test for you, the people of Providenciales in particular. Because I recall the periods when many of you talk about bullets flying all about and having to run under your beds for protection. Caller, good night and welcome to Expressions. Good night, caller. Are you there? Please call back. We have lost you there. The number to call, 946-2007. That's 946-2007. That caller is there now. Caller, welcome to Expressions.
Yes, good night to you, Honorable. You were touching on a subject that really near and dear to me, because I wore them colors, the colors of a police officer back in the Bahamas. And I must say that those guys, they're doing a tremendous job. The Jamaican contingent, they're doing a tremendous job. I mean, Jones would probably say you can almost hear rats licking ice in this country since these guys showed up. I mean, I see them and when I see them, I kind of stick out my old chest a little bit. I'm saying there goes me back in the day, no nonsense, and I mean, their game, and so I appreciate the fact that the premier saw fit to invite those guys in, and they ain't taking no frills. I love it. Thank you very much. So that's my 10 cents for the day.
Thank you very much for your dollar's worth. Let's get it on, Marvin Gaye would say. And the number to call is 1-900-2222-007. I am operating from here in the studio in Providenciales, and so I would not see those of you who would normally log on to Expressions. But in any event, what I am inviting now is for members of the public to call in, and particularly you in Providenciales, whom, as I was saying earlier on, you were fearful to go outside at nights. Many of you talked about hiding under your beds and all like that. Your children screaming when bullets were flying. I'm not saying that there aren't individuals firing off shots and the like. I'm not saying there aren't still some robberies, but not of the magnitude that there was before. There is what I would call relative calm, and that is indeed commendable. Others of you, I want you to share your views. Or are you telling me to just pack it in and call it that? This is such an important matter. You see, members of the force make such great sacrifice. It's safer now, but generally speaking, particularly in the past, they left home not knowing if they're going to return. That's not the nicest feeling. Many of the public, members of the public, felt the same way. Because at times, like with the public, it's not a matter that you may have been involved in anything nefarious, but you could have just been a victim of circumstance, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we've seen that happen in several cases. What is your view? 946-2007, 1-900-2222-007. Providenciales, with the thousands of you down here, I need to hear from you. Grand Turk and North Caicos would talk more than you. Of course, I'm not limiting it just to Providenciales. So others of you throughout the islands, whether Salt Key, Grand Turk, South Caicos, Middle or North, feel free to call in 946-2007, 1-900-2222-007. Or you may message me at 244-7332. I want to say good night to my good friend Conrad Pension, the great USA, to him and his family. It's always nice being in contact with you. I want to say good night to Reverend Clifford Lewis, a schoolmate of mine, who is celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. I believe he would be in the islands sometime the next day or two, spend some time. I certainly hope we'll link up. Many would have heard me talk about the days at William Knibb, the likes of Clifford Lewis and Lloyd Lewis, Dr. Linda Williams, Pastor Mary Forbes, Reverend Edna Oughton, my cousin Calvin Hamilton. Who else at the time? All right, there might have been others, but I might have be forgetting the names of some of them. Those were great old days. And indeed, we all made our contribution to this, our beautiful land. One more call, then, before I move on. The number to call is 946-2007, 1-900-2222-007. Do you appreciate the efforts and achievement of our police force in restoring calm to the islands? Do you appreciate the statements of the Commissioner of Police that he will do his darnest that these islands never revert to the state of fear and lawlessness that was before? Well, I have provided you with the opportunity. That is on you. I have said basically what I wanted to say. I certainly hope that all of our police officers, whether they are Turks and Caicos Islanders or not, would have learned a lot. And when the Jamaican tactical team should leave us, that they would be able to carry on, and that the criminals will not be able to say, well, as some label it, the bad boy is gone, I could come back out now and do as I wish. It is my hope that era will never, ever return. So again, Commissioner Bailey, members of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, inclusive of everybody, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Now, the Progressive National Party secured an overwhelming victory in the last general elections, 16-3. Many, including myself, have expressed disappointment that they have not been able to deliver more in the first year of their new term. Some individuals, and perhaps rightly so, look at it as a continuation from the previous 4, so then they should make 5. Now they have a 5-year mandate, and I sincerely hope they are not waiting until near the end to get many of the projects going. We've heard lots of talk. It's time now to walk the walk. Whether it is 6,000 or whatever thousand houses that are needed, like any journey, it starts with the first steps. Honorable ministers, when will we see the first house being built by government? Affordable homes, low-income homes, a combination of all. There is a chronic housing shortage in the Turks and Caicos Islands, particularly here in Providenciales. And rents are outrageous. There is time now for a rent assessment board with teeth so that they can go around and inspect these apartments, see the conditions and what kind of services are provided, and determine whether rents are reasonable. I note too about beaches seeking to build something like 250 or so apartments for their staff. Right now, they have the entire airport inn occupied for a year. There are some who oppose that, and I understand some of their arguments, not that I'm in total agreement. Indeed, government should have enforced long ago, but now they seem to apply pressure, that employers provide housing for their employees. In some cases, that was being done before, but not on a wide scale. I am of the view that if more of these apartments or houses are built to staff their people, then other apartments that they now rent would become vacant. And like in economics, if you have an oversupply of any commodity, the prices will go down. When you have a scarcity like we have now, the prices will go up. Just like oil, because of that unjustified war that President Donald Trump of the United States and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel have started and don't know how to end. So they are caught in a trap, and they don't know how to get out. They could threaten a little bit more to blow Iran off the map. But Iran was there before many of them, and Iran will be there after them. I am not minimizing the atrocities that Iran may have committed against its own people. But America for years have been committing atrocities against the black race and minorities. So who are they to tell the world what to do or how to do it? And as for President Donald Trump, I need not describe him. He has absolutely no moral authority. Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel will prolong everything to escape the inevitable of facing court and possibly imprisonment. But let me get back to here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I cannot tell the government how to do what they want to do. They have their advisors, they have their technocrats who ought to be far more competent than I am. But really, we need to see a start on the construction of some of those houses. Perhaps they could set a standard, and instead of one big company coming to build several thousand, you can allot different companies a couple hundred at a time. Mind you, I understand the rationale for a major company. But if you break it then into smaller groups, more and more Turks and Caicos Islanders would be able to benefit as major contractors and subcontractors. But by all means, get the houses going. Because I was busy in court, I didn't get an opportunity to ride around. So my friends who have been volunteering to show me certain building sites and certain other things here on Providenciales gave me a call sometime tomorrow. Because like I said, based in Grand Turk, I'm not too aware of things here on the ground. So I certainly would be grateful to be able to ride around and with your eyes show me some of the unsightly development, unauthorized development, derelict vehicles all over the place, unauthorized garages that you talk about, garbage, bad roads, and I had a little experience of the traffic as I rode with my daughter Indira. And good night to my girls up there in Grand Turk, Rabinique and Ruby. Hope you're having a great time. There are other things that are burning issues. I mentioned the overcrowding roads. We can't just keep looking at it and talking. It's now time for action, PNP. You say you come for the work? Do the work. Premier Charles Washington Music, because you cannot have another consecutive term as Premier, I regard this term as your legacy term. Let your legacy be a proud one. That despite the criticism and cynicism expressed by some, that you would have delivered solutions to housing, delivered solutions to the problem of traffic here in Providenciales. And like I said, Grand Turk, you ain't got to get jealous. The focus tonight is providencialis, or provo, as we say. You talk about the overcrowded nature at the airport here, the Howard Hamilton Airport. Let's fix it. I know you're talking about borrowing $360 million. I don't particularly like that one. I like the fact that we could have boasted our debt is only about $1.75 million or thereabout, when almost everywhere else is up hundreds and so on. But I suppose the public might welcome it if government would say to the public, we need X dollars to fix this, that, or the other, or, for instance, the new terminal facilities for Providencialis. And we do not want to dip into the $418 million that we have in our coffers. They need, sometimes, before making these public announcements, do a little bit more homework. So when they come to the public, they would have more details. There is a burning issue that I need to address a little bit. And although it seems to me tonight like either you're preoccupied, I don't want to say you're not concerned, because I'm sure you must be concerned about the various issues. But so far, except for the goodly gentleman and another who have messaged me, you have refused to give your opinions on the matters discussed. I'm going to go through my messages, and then I'm going to speak a little bit about Turks and Caicos Islander status. Turks and Caicos Islander status. Okay, see where one person says, good afternoon, Honorable Hall. I was just talking to some residents from Five Keys, and their response was Five Keys was so safe that they could walk at any time after dark without fear. I live in the downtown area, and my kids used to be terrified at nights. Now they are content. Now they are content. I do appreciate what the police are doing. They deserve a round of applause. Thanks. Goes on to say, I totally agree with you that these low-cost homes are long overdue. But first, what price range does the government consider as low cost? The average cost per square foot, low to medium cost, is about $300 per square foot. So an average low cost running about $270,000 to $300,000. How can we afford that with minimum wages? And the person says, I will clear my schedule to take you around tomorrow. All right, I appreciate that, and I will contact you sometime after court tomorrow, because I hope to return to court. Of course, I'm not on trial. You must know that. You know, interestingly, I've never been charged. And I have never even been in court on a civil matter. One time I break down part of a fellow's wall, the days when I used to drive around under certain influences. In my more reckless days, I would say. But by the time he got a summons to me, I settled out of court. So I've never... The only times I've really been in court is on a couple occasions, I went there to help other persons. Okay? All right. But anyway, I hope to go there tomorrow. So thank you very much for that offer. I'll get in contact with you. And I would certainly appreciate that offer. And this person says, good night, Mr. Hall. What a very good topic you are really talking. What the majority of citizens in Providencia is experienced with ridiculous and unaffordable apartment rental prices and really substandard conditions is, in my view, a crisis. In my view, this is where a great deal of effort, attention, and priority should be. If they, the government, don't put this at the very top of the to-do list, in my view, they would have failed the people. And I could not agree with you more. Yes. And this person says, Mr. Hall, I am a Turks and Caicos Islander, and I'm grateful for the Commissioner Bailey and the leadership he brought to the police force and the calm that brought to the entire country by being a major player in restoring order here. Things was not good, and his leadership helped to turn it back in the right direction. Take a bow, Mr. Bailey. TCI is in your debt. Thanks much. This person says, just listening this evening, I am thankful that the Jamaican officers are here. I applaud the police commissioner's leadership in the force. One thing that stood out to me on the visit by the Prime Minister of Jamaica was the comments that Jamaican officers made. They said there's a language barrier in the Turks and Caicos. Yes, in Jamaica, they don't have many Haitian, Dominicans, Filipino, this one and the one other to deal with. That is true. Here, it's really a melting pot. There is no doubt about that. The number to call, 946 2007 or 1-900-2222 007. I await your calls, and you can continue to message me at 244-7332. Just trying a little bit of multitasking at the same time, okay? Anyway, it's really a pleasure to be here in Providenciales tonight and perhaps for the next few days. I am looking forward to seeing more and more of the island. We are really, really blessed with a beautiful island. I've often talked about that 12-mile stretch, Grace Bay Beach, the lovely blue hills that we have, and I don't mean just the community, and the melting pot that it is. And I have said to you many, many times, though some of you don't like it, but you know, because it may gain some traction or some likes, you beat up on the Haitians and the foreign nationals that are here. But if there wasn't a need, they wouldn't be here. And I'm not talking about the illegal ones. And I've always said, and I'll repeat, if we could have built this country by our hands alone, we would have done so long time ago. And therefore, what we should be doing now, like the song says, you know, with the various nationalities, blend into one cohesive force and build these Turks and Caicos Islands. You talk about the Haitians. They band together. When one can't do something, others will join. I was talking to somebody today, and they gave me a wonderful story about a young man who was working somewhere. Oh, yes, I think it was Mr. Higgs from the Taxi Association. And he said, he noticed, all of the firemen having problem getting their shoes shined. So he decided to open up a little shoe shine business for those there. He noticed too that they needed food, and he did something to cater there. And he was able to raise money. Now, whether that's the Turks and Caicos Island or some other person, I don't know, some other nationality, and has bought himself 2 taxis. But then the story goes on that he decided to build a house. And with the help, and I think now, yes, it's a Haitian or a person of Haitian background. And he got help from them, and I think his building is at Belbeam. There was a time when we did that in the Turks and Caicos Islands, as we say, work day for day, or something like that. And basically, you simply have your wife or some family member cook some food, and men would be mixing the mortar, passing the mortar, or whatever there is, and there you go. But these days, so much selfishness has set in. You don't find that community spirit, that effort anymore. It's all me, I, myself. And that is why you ought not be jealous about the Haitians. They work hard. And you know what? They have a much better culture of savings than we do. I'm not saying that you must live the way they may have lived to achieve what you have, because I know, and I always sweep around my own door first. If my daughters want this chicken, I don't know what they call them again. I know about fried chicken and steamed chicken, but they got all kind of chicken chule or chicken this and chicken that. Could be their last $20. If they want it, they're going to spend that. Haitians don't operate that way in general. No. You remember one time, I tell you the difference, and I'm going to repeat it tonight, between the Haitian worker, the Dominican worker, and the TI worker. Construction now. The Dominican man goes out on the construction job. He gets his pay. He goes home. He put his wife or sweetheart's money on the table. Because whether the children is his or ain't his, you got to maintain them till they look like you. As one judge said. You got to give Dominican their money to go to the salon. Otherwise, you will have no peace. And no pun is intended there. Some of you sharp ones are saying, Robert, you're wicked tonight. Oh, yeah, that's the way they operate. Then they will go out to sip on something. The Turks and Caicos guy, he gets his pay. Oh boy, if he get a little contract, he's on the next plane in the DR. When he come back, hardly got enough damn money to get the job finished. Then when he find himself can hardly get another contract, oh, this government ain't no good. You ain't no damn good. You got to learn how to save your money, prioritize, and put it in the project. Others, they get that paycheck in the bar. Machine. Or spending to impress the women in the bar. I don't want to call no particular nationality because some of them are really victims of circumstance. I tell you, I don't drink and I don't womanize no more. You hear what I say? I don't do none of them there no more. You know this song they call Look and Live, My Brother Live? Look to Jesus, look and live. That's what I do in these days. Not that I can't, you know, and not that the devil ain't busy. Because sometimes you will see some things that disturb your sight and even your spirits. But I cling to the song, Christian, walk carefully because danger is near. And as far as possible, Welty, how are you, my dear sister? I try to shun the very appearance of evil. But many succumb to those pressures out there. But guys, I'm going to remind you, all that glitters is not gold. Many a man his life has sold. Remember that. Some words of wisdom coming from the brother of African heritage. Good night to all the Africans living in the Turks and the Caicos Islands. Many don't want to identify with Africa, but I believe in what Peter Tosh says. No matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're in Africa. You're an African, sorry. And trust me, Africa, where civilization began, will in due course, taking a mighty, mighty long time. But with leaders like Ibrahim Traoré and others, they will band together and make the words of the prophets come true. Because they must realize, united we stand, divided we fall. Turks and Caicos need to understand that. And that's why it's no use, as I said, beginning or continuing this talk about Haitian, Dominican, what have you. It is what it is, and it's not going to be reversed. Turks and Caicos people are not having many children. So the fact is, you are outnumbered. You vote in PNP, you're outnumbered. You could vote them in and put in PDM, you're going to be outnumbered. No matter what you do, that is the case. Therefore, you have got to find a way to work with it. And what I say to my daughters, from when they were small, now listen, and don't take it the wrong way, because they are mixed heritage. Their mother is Dominican, their father is a proud Turks and Caicos Islander. Well, she has TI status now, but you know what I mean when I say that, okay? And I often say to them, I know Dominicans like to talk about their beauty and this, that, and the other. But I challenge them, if you don't work hard and improve yourself educationally, make use of all the opportunities, Haitians will be your boss. Why do I say that? Look at the schools. Look at the community college. The Haitians are excelling. I am not saying that some of our Turks and Caicos Islanders are not excelling in studies, but some of us take it for granted because this is, as we say, our paradise. The best way for one to lift themselves out of poverty is through education and skills. If you are prepared just to work for a salary somewhere, you may never be really wealthy. But you got to have your side hustle, as some would say. You need to move on to be entrepreneurs in whatever areas. Do you know how much money plumbers make? How much money carpenters, masons, electricians, and the like? And that's why I always say, you take some of the guys, and let me not call a particular area now. Their hands may be hardened, but they got money in their pocket. You could sit down with your manicured nails and smooth lotion hands and all the rest. But brother, that guy who is crafty looking, burnt up with the sun, calloused hands, he got dough in his pocket. As a little friend used to say, he got mullah. He got money in his pocket. Get some skills. So instead of sitting on the corner complaining and blaming society, get your backside to the community college. They offer training in various subjects. You can get your level of certification. These days, everything calls for a little piece of paper. So go on and get your certification. I have been talking for nearly 2 hours. I certainly would want to hear from others of you. I am going to check my messages, but as I do that, feel free to call in. The number to call is 1-900 2222-007 946-2007. I was sort of glancing at a message my nephew sent me. A good evening, Busha. And I am aware of that story that's circulating in the Bahamas about a politician who brazenly met with undercover DEA fellas in the Parliament building of all places, discussing drugs. And he says, became an elected politician named in drug indictment. Well, I haven't seen the name of that person so far. If you have it, I'd be great to hear. And this person texts me to say, good evening, Brother Honorable. Great topic. We salute Commissioner Bailey. On other matter of there being a language barrier here in TCI compared to Jamaica, may I remind you that Jamaica has many nationalities, but unlike TCI, the foreign nationals there have become Jamaicans, and they speak Jamaican patois, hence the Jamaicans' motto, out of many one people. Foreign nationals here in the Turks and Caicos Islands speak their native tongue for most part and are insistent that we speak their language instead of our own dialect. So in many instances, we bend to suit them. When one lands in Provo, the first language you hear is Haitian Creole. When you land in Jamaica, Jamaican patois spoken. You're right about that. You will hear Wagwan man. Everything cool. Yes, that's the difference. I agree with you. No doubt about it. This person says, good night again, Mr. Hall. Sometimes when I visit individuals and see what they pay for rent alone, $2,000 in some instances for a 1 or 1.5 bedroom, I am saddened because that rent they pay and unable to really save for a home creates a cycle of serial renters. But places like Grand Turk and North Caicos, the pricing and quality is not bad yet, so they can still save towards a home. Mr. Hall, use your voice to keep beating that drum to the government. Good night. thank you very much. And you know, I'm humbled by a lot of the expressions that people and the confidence they have in me. And you wouldn't always know that behind the scenes, I say even more than I might say openly. Because Robert Hall is not looking for much for himself. I fight for my children and children's children, for the children of this land and future generation. Like I often say, like the song, my evening sun is sinking low. A few more days and I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. Good evening, Cousin Thelma. I am sure you must be listening in. A good morning, listen, good evening, good night to your beautiful daughter and her husband, Honorable Parnell. How are you doing, sir? An open invitation is there for you to join me on Expressions. I would love to know how your housing project is going. Let me know and I'll be happy to give some publicity to it. God bless all of you. We're getting down to the end of yet another Expressions. Certainly, it has been a delight for me being with you here in Providenciales. But there's still time for another caller. Still time for several other messages. 946-2007, 1-900-2222-007. And as I said, message me at 244-7332. I certainly would love to share it. I started talking about the TCI status, and I got carried away. Now I'm going to tell you, I get mad as hell when I see some of those who have come to join us and now want to dictate to us because of their legal prowess what we must do or not do. I have to contain myself because some serious thoughts come to me. Like I said in an article, I don't see why the hell some of them don't take their belly and make boats, like the late Bobs Francis used to say. The government makes a move, you feel you must challenge. You succeeded with the Sri Lankans. You succeeded challenging some other status, and the governor gave in. You're trying it again. Listen, there is a hole in the bucket, dear Washi. There's a hole in the bucket. With what shall we caulk it, dear Washi? I am not saying use your good cousin. Neither am I saying use your deputy. But the hole has to be caulked. I listened to the late President Reagan, and he said you could live in Germany, but you'll never become a German. You live in France, you'll never become a French citizen, or words to that effect. And he named some other countries. He did go on to say, but in the United States, it's open to all. That has been the case here in Turks and Caicos. But because of abuse, you don't think it's time to close the door? Should we consider going no further than permanent residence certificates? With all the legal brains that are here, Turks and Caicos Islanders. And I ain't talking about one white man who seems he is God gifts to man. Can't we craft the kind of legislation not only to limit the numbers, but if needs be, just stop it? You come here, you want some security of tenure, you got work permit, you get PRC, not good enough. You want status, so you could get what's left of our land. You want status, so you could run for office and legislate to suit your own whims and fancies. Turks and Caicos Islanders, wake up. Like I said on Expressions, like the old song that says, if you have a hammer, if I had a hammer, I'll hammer in the morning, I'll hammer in the evening, all over God's land. I don't have a hammer. I can't nail straight. But I have a voice. And like that caller said, trust me as long as God gives me strength by my big right hand. As the banana man said, I will let my voice be heard throughout this land on Expressions and off Expressions. I used to teach my children in school a lovely song. It's from the United Kingdom, but the lines that I like so much: we shall not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem in this our green and pleasant land. Provo, you look green. God is blessing you with water, with rain almost every day. Give God thanks. Do the best to preserve it. Protect what little there is of Turks and Caicos. Let me just go through the remaining text before I end. Okay. All right, brother who was to pick me up today, I see your apology. That's understood. No love lost. This person says, good night, Mr. Hall. Commissioner Bailey and his team are doing a commendable job. We are pleased. There has been visible community engagement, which is beneficial for community and public relations. We only hope that there is a transfer of skills, knowledge, and experience, so that upon the departure of the Jamaican contingent, there is continuity and continued progress. Take a bow, Commissioner Bailey. We appreciate your team and you. It sounds similar to one before. Did I read it before? It could be. And this person says, evening, Honorable Hall, great show. Hats off to Commissioner Bailey. And you're on point with your last topic about the Haitian, about the contractor, and about that hole in the bucket. What are we going to cork it with? Must say you look sharp today, and you still got it, my brother. All right, thank you very much. And this is a police officer. in Grand Turk, and he says to listen to your show, and he corrected me, I must say, Honorable Premier instead of Washi. I agree with you, but I like you see, I tend, because of the familiarity, I sometimes slip into that. It's like the other night at a meeting, I had to say a few things to him, about him, and I made it known that I was the most senior in the room. He looked at me because he's older than me, and I quickly said, I don't mean in terms of your age. I mean, I was elected before anyone else in there. All right? Okay. Not boasting, neither am I toasting. But ladies and gentlemen, guess what? 2 hours have gone. We're at the end of expressions for yet another night. Greg mentioned to me that large numbers of you were listening. Not as many called as I would have liked. Several of you posted your comments. I appreciate it. But certainly, for all of you who just sat back and listened, I hope that something will sink in. And let us band together and build this new Jerusalem right here in our green and pleasant land. Good night, and God bless you all. The word is love.